joining us right now, as always, he does here on a Weinberg Wednesday. It is Dave Weinberg here on the Boardwalk Honda Hotline. Dave, how you doing today?
I'm doing well, Josh. How are you?
I'm doing pretty good. So we are now about a week and change removed from the Eagles' 3 days of the draft. And I got to know from you, what were your initial takeaways from the 3 days? How did you feel how the Eagles did in their 3 days in the draft?
I thought they did okay. I mean, I'm not willing to give them like an A plus, like seems like some other people are willing to do. But I thought the first round pick was tremendous. Although they were kind of like backed into a corner a little bit once Jalen Waddle was gone and the two corners, Patrick Surtain and C.J. Horn. They really had no choice. They couldn't sit there at 12 because they knew that Devontae Smith wasn't going to be there, so they had no choice but to move up. But I mean, I think he's going to be a difference maker. As far as the rest of the draft, though, I mean, I know everybody's lauding Landon Dickerson as this potential Pro Bowler when he's healthy, but there's an awful lot of injuries there. I mean, 4 and 5 years, torn 2 ACLs, 2 ankle surgeries that were ended his season. It seems like that's an awful big gamble that I don't know that it's willing to take in the second round. I mean, they made that mistake a couple of years ago with Sidney Jones, and they vowed never to do that again. But I guess the potential upside was just too big there. And, they filled some other holes. They got a corner in the 4th round, I guess it was, defensive line, offensive line here and there. So I guess overall it's they filled some needs that they had to fill. However, time will tell whether this guy's panning out or not, of course.
Right. So how do you feel about the perception that a lot of people have read into it that the Eagles' whole plan looks like they were just going to go best player available on the board and they weren't going to hyper-focus on just need because as Howie Roseman inferred about 2 weeks ago that they weren't going to do what they did last year again?
Yeah, I mean, I guess they did. I mean, they there was a little bit of a dispute there in the Eagles draft room. It looked like with Tom Donahue and Howie after they drafted in the 3rd round and took the defensive lineman from I forget where he's from anyway. But anyway, it looked like Donahue wasn't too thrilled with it. I think they moved up a couple spots and got like a 6th round pick, and Donahue would have preferred to just stick with the board. So but I guess for the most part they did that. They targeted certain players for certain spots, and when somebody fell to them, they took it. So I guess that was the strategy, and I guess they followed it for generally speaking.
Dave, my favorite pick, and I am not abashed about this of the whole draft. I know that Devonta Smith is going to get the headlines.
Mm-hmm.
I love the pick of Kenneth Gainwell. Because this is the guy who got snaps over Antonio Gibson, who had a really nice year last year for Washington. We know the history of Memphis running backs, and I think that when you look at the Eagles, after Miles Sanders, there's not much behind him at this point. So to me, I feel like this is a perfect compliment for Miles because he already has experience playing in a timeshare, and in that timeshare, he was extremely productive.
Yeah, it should be. I mean, I would expect Miles to get the bulk of the carries, but, you had Jordan Howard and Boston Scott, take it for what that's worth. But, yeah, to get another potentially not a dynamic running back, I guess a dynamic running back, yeah. I mean, he's a very good receiver out of the backfield as well, which is, from what I understand, he's kind of like a Darren Sproles type of guy maybe. I haven't seen him play that much, so I don't know. But, yeah, it was clear that they needed to upgrade the running back position, and they did that. So I agree with you. That was a very good pick.
Now that the draft is done, though, we got to move on. And what the Eagles haven't figured out yet, talking about the beginning of the show, Zach Ertz is still on the Eagles roster. And it feels like this is something that should have been taken care of months ago at this point. If you weren't going to keep the guy, why is he still here? So, Dave, I ask you, why is Zach Ertz still here?
I don't know. I guess the longer he stays, the more you have to be inclined that he's going to be here this year. I don't know if you're going to get rid of him. I think that during the draft would have been the thing to do it, to maybe package him as part of a deal to move up, maybe even in the 1st round if they wanted to. But they didn't do that. It's clear they're not just going to give Zach away. So and teams, I guess, know that also. So they're just going to continue to lowball them, I guess, when it comes to Zach. I mean, I think he still has a lot of football left in him. I think he could still return to his Pro Bowl form. I tend to believe that last year was just a fluke almost, that just things just didn't pan out. Everything kind of went wrong that could go wrong. But I still have a lot of faith in Zach, and hopefully, maybe Nick Sirianni and his coaching staff, maybe they've done a little talking with Zach and kind of got him to buy into the program again and what they're trying to build. And if that's the case, then look for him to be in Eagles green again this year.
Dave Weinberg joining us for a Weinberg Wednesday here on Game Night on 97.3 ESPN, at Dave Weinberg 19 on Twitter. Extra Point columns over at 97.3 ESPN.com. Yeah, Dave, I talked about that earlier. Like, the guy's only 30 years old. He's not old. He's younger than Travis Kelce. He's only a couple years older than George Kittle. So he still is in that age range that you can see a guy be very good. And I just feel like the way this has been handled.
I'm sorry, Josh, you still there?
Yeah, I'm still here. Your camera's moving around. You got me? You hear me, Dave?
I lost it. Wait a minute. Let me call back in.
All right, let's reconnect with Dave in a moment. We were just recalibrating there, but it's one of those deals where I was saying before Dave came on about the fact that, to me, I just feel like the situation with Zach Ertz, as I said at the beginning of the show, could have been handled better. And that's kind of where I stand with that. And listen, I understand that, there's no perfect way to handle this. But at the same time, just knowing the Eagles' franchise history and knowing the team's history, I felt like it could have been different. So hopefully we can get Dave back up here on the live stream here on Game Night on 97.3 ESPN. Let's see. I believe we have Dave back. Dave, can you hear me now? Just give me a nod, yes or no. You got me, Dave? Might help if I turned your mic on, but we should be good now.
Okay, sounds good.
Okay. So
you're asking about Zach, I think?
Yeah, because I just wanted to know, like, for me, like, it feels like with the history of Ertz and the history of this organization, this whole thing to me has just been mishandled. Like, historically, this organization, if they're moving on from someone, they move on. You know what I mean? And the player
usually, yep.
And the player like Ertz, who's invested so much time and so much energy into the team and the community and into his career, it just feels like to be where we are with Ertz at his age and with this organization, it just feels not right.
I agree with you there. They seem to give up on him too quickly, and I'm not sure why that is. Like, he didn't have a good year this year, but that's the only year that he hasn't had a good year. And you're right, he's not that old. He's still a productive tight end in this league, I think. And you're right. I mean, the amount of leadership he brings to that locker room can't be discounted. If you're trying to build a certain culture, Zach Ertz is one of those guys you want to help build it. And maybe they've realized that. Maybe that's why he's still an Eagle. That's the only conclusion I can come to. I mean, I don't know why you were getting rid of him in the first place. So hopefully they'll see the error of their ways and keep him here.
It's been suggested by some that they're keeping him around to potentially trade him in a deal to go get a cornerback. Your thoughts on that?
I guess it's a possibility, man. They do need one. But it'd have to be a really good one for me to give up Zach Ertz for somebody like that. I guess that's a possibility. I mean, I guess you have to determine what your biggest need is there. I mean, they do need a corner. They're really short-handed there. They do have Dallas Goedert as a tight end, but you don't have much behind him. So I guess you got to pick your poison, so to speak, whether you want to take a chance and maybe sign a free agent corner, or do you want to trade Zach Ertz for somebody? That's an interesting debate. I don't know how I would go. I think I would keep Zach and sign somebody myself, but Howie's the genius. So
not the adjective I would use, but sure, we can roll with that for Howie. Dave Weinberg joining us here on a Weinberg Wednesday here on Game Night on 97.3 ESPN, at Weinberg19 on Twitter. Dave, your latest extra points column was about Thomas LaManna loses his title shot in pretty explosive manner. Just a big knockout there. And what is the state of his career now? Because it felt like this was a big moment. This is something for a local guy to get to this level. He waited for this for a long time, and to lose this way just feels very deflating.
Yeah, he's got some soul searching to do for himself. That you're right. That was a pretty decisive way to lose a fight. A minute and 20 seconds. There were some people who were wondering how he got that shot, but and no fault of him, no fault of his own though. I mean, if someone offers you the opportunity, it's kind of like the first Rocky movie. If somebody offers you the opportunity to fight for the world championship, you can't say no. So, whether he was deserving of the shot is immaterial at this point. He got it, and he tried to make the most of it. I mean, he gave it his best shot, so to speak. But Ertz Lara is one of the best in the world, pound for pound, and that was pretty evident. I mean, Lara was several levels above Thomas. Thomas would have had to have fought the perfect fight in order to pull off a pretty big upset. I think Lara was favored anywhere from like 25 to 50 to 1, depending on who you believe. So, but he's got a lot of soul searching to do for himself. I mean, he's 29 years old now. I don't know if another chance is going to come along anytime soon. So, and he's been fairly successful as a promoter, along with his mom, with Rising Star Promotions. They put on some cards at the Claridge and the Showboat, some down in Mexico also. So, if he wants to stay involved in boxing, maybe that's the way to go, to go on the other side of the rope, so to speak, and work more as a promoter than a fighter.
It's always interesting to see a fighter who doesn't get to the apex of the sport but has some success. What happens to them? Because I know, for example, when we think of, for example, football or basketball, it's like, oh, well, maybe you'll be a coach, maybe you'll be a broadcaster. Whereas for a fighter, it's a very different animal because, as you mentioned, yeah, promoter is there, but outside of being a promoter or maybe a coach, it's very hard to stay involved with the sport, once you decide to hang up those gloves.
Yeah, I mean, you do see a few guys doing commentating, but yeah, aside from maybe being a trainer or promoter, there's really not a whole lot of options out there. But there are guys who they keep fighting. Even if you don't get that world title shot, there's still a lot of success out there that you can have. You're not going to make the multi-million-dollar payday, but you can stay alive in the sport. You can pick up a couple wins here and there, and stay involved. And if your love of the sport is that strong, then who am I to tell you not to who am I to tell you to hang up the gloves? I mean, I've never been in the ring, so I can't tell you what it's like or what to expect. So if Thomas feels like he can still be competitive, then more power to him. Just keep going.
Dave, let's jump over to baseball. First of all, let's start with Mike Trout.
You got your lineup card right, by the way?
Well, you know what? Here's the thing. I think the other manager has it, but the umpire doesn't have it right.
Right.
Which that story in and of itself is ridiculous. I don't know how the other manager has the right lineup card and the umpire doesn't. I understand Joe Girardi is taking the blame for everything, but I feel like Girardi's just kind of getting to the point where we're just going to start seeing his hair fall out because I feel like this season is going to age him faster than anything. I mean, the Phillies just put Roman Quinn and Matt Joyce on the injured list, and they recalled up Moniak and Kingery. It feels like this Phillies season last night was just just another example of how sideways this baseball season is going in Philadelphia.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, it seems like there's such a topsy-turvy, bizarre kind of a scenario. Almost every game has some sort of sideshow to it, whether it's getting hit in the face or illegal substitutions or what have you. I mean, it's just that everything just seems to be going against them. I mean, I'm glad to see Kingery get the opportunity, though. As I think we've spoken about in the past, I think the Phillies, they did him no favors earlier by changing his swing around, making him swing for the fences when he's clearly not a home run hitter. If he can just go back to what he does best, putting the ball on the ground, hitting the ball into the gaps, I think he'll be just fine. So I'm hoping that he'll be able to take advantage of this chance this time.
I hope for his sake he can turn around because I think he's a hard worker. But I just feel like the Phillies, it feels like they can't catch a break because I think he might be better off staying in AAA and getting at bats down there instead of coming up here. Up here and hoping to get some playing time because between him, Moniak, and Herrera, who's batting horribly, is a doable Herrera. It just feels like
to say the least. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, can you get any worse than 100? I mean, come on. I mean,
no. Roman Quinn was that bad, but he started to get hot and then leave it to them. He finally starts to put the bat on the ball, and now he's hurt. Or
that's Roman Quinn's memoir. It's going to be called "I Was Good Till I Got Hurt." So there you go. A guy who does not get hurt almost at all, and a guy who is playing well is Millville's own Mike Trout. Dave, I felt like he might take it personal because when we talked about a couple of weeks ago, I said he's got to bat over 400 for me to, I said that, tongue in cheek. Well, he's batting 407 now. So it seems like if anybody's going to now chase Ted Williams down, it might be Mike Trout because, Dave, I have argued this might be the best I've ever seen Mike Trout. And that's saying something considering he's won, 3 MVP awards?
3 MVPs. Has been second a bunch of times. I don't think he's never finished lower than fourth in like 9 years or something like that. Yeah, it's been and to see him get off to the start that he's getting off to is just ridiculous. He's clearly the best player in the game. You can argue whoever you want, but I'll take Mike Trout over anybody. And I've always thought that 400 was one of those unreachable goals, kind of like 56 straight games with a hit or what have you. But I'm starting to think if he can stay, well, it's tough to stay hot for an entire season, but if anybody can do it, it's him. I mean, he has home runs, but he doesn't swing for the fences. He puts the ball in play. You can't really put a shift on him because he knows how to go the other way. He's as good of an all-around hitter and an all-around player as there is. So it'll be really fun to see him kind of flirt with that, at least for, going into like July and August. And, the entire country will realize what we've all known for a long time, that he is a tremendous player, probably the best in the game.
It is interesting, though, to say that the best players in the league right now are all on the West Coast. You got Trout with the Angels. You got Mookie Betts with the Dodgers. Fernando Tatis Jr. with the Padres.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's a very strange turn of events because years ago, it was all the best players were on the East Coast. It was the Yankees, the Red Sox, the Braves. Right. Even teams like Cleveland at one point. They had Albert Bell and all those guys. So now you have all these guys on the West Coast. It definitely changes the topography of the baseball world.
Yeah, I think you and I have talked about this before where people complain, they should be at Red Sox, they should be in the Phillies playing for the Yankees. But the fact remains that those West Coast teams are just as popular as the East Coast teams out there. So, there's no edict from MLB that you have to play for an East Coast team to be successful. And those guys are proving it now. Hopefully, the rest of the country will start to turn into those West Coast games. I mean, be like me, take a nap in the afternoon, and you're ready to go at 10:30 when the Angels come on MLB Network.
It's a good strategy by Dave Weinberg. It's a Weinberg Wednesday at Dave Weinberg 19 on Twitter. Check out his extra point columns over at 97.3ESPN.com. As all guests, he appeared right here on the Boardwalk on the hotline. Dave, always appreciate you jumping on the conversation.
Well, thanks a lot, Josh. I appreciate it. I want to wish my grandson, Graham, a happy 3rd birthday. That was the other day. So congrats to him.
Kids, they grow up so fast, right?
Yeah, they sure do. Man, it just flies by. Yep.
All right, Dave.
Thanks again.
Have a good one, man.